This is rarely series that you put together that is fabulous. It is fabulous.
Thank you for telling me. I'm so glad.
Hanging on every word.
It's so helpful. Thank you for telling me. I really appreciate it. All right, cool. Whenever you're ready. Well, actually, it's a couple minutes. We have another minute.
Yeah, we're good.
Give it.
You checked this?
Yeah, I checked it. It's all good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
So that's new. And so then for people on Zoom, you can just watch the stream. Sit anywhere you want to.
Jodili Vanilo Arohe Bashoshanim Dodili. This is 129, page 129, for those of you who want to sing along. Dodili Vanilo Arohe Bashoshanim Dodili Mizotola Min Hamidbar Mizotola Min Hamidbar Dodili Vanilo Arohe Bashoshanim Dodili Mekuteret Mor Morulevona Dodili Dodili Vanilo Arohe Bashoshanim Dodili.
Nice to see everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and Shabbat Shalom. And I'm aware that although it's not, this Labor Day weekend isn't bringing us so much joy, at least yet. Usually we have high expectations for the weather on Labor Day weekend. So not yet, but give it time. But still, I'm aware that there's the traffic that people are constantly fighting, and probably this is the biggest weekend of them all. So I'm just so grateful that you came out here, and Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to those faces here that are new or unusual. And when I say unusual faces, I think you know what I'm saying. And of course, welcome back to those who are veterans here to our congregation. Just happy to see everybody. So, our service continues, or actually, to be perfectly honest, officially begins. And the reason why officially begins is because once we, light the Shabbat candles, that's when we usher in Shabbat. So that little Dodi lead that we just sang was pre-Shabbat, but beautiful nonetheless. So I invite you to turn to page 120 as we continue with the blessing for lighting the Shabbat candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
123 now, Kiddush.
Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava ratzon inchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher letziyat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava v'ratzon inchaltanu.
Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
Join me, I'm on page 124. Haven't done this in a while, maybe ever. Let's read the bottom together, bottom of 124, or you can just listen to me. You don't have to read with me, but I'd like it if you did. Bottom of 124. May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May the synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Beautiful. Page 131 now. This is part of a number of psalms which comprise Kabbalat Shabbat, and this element of this song, or of this psalm rather, is the last couple verses of the psalm. So if you look, we're on page 131, and it's in the second paragraph, and it's halfway down. It's called Ya'aloz Sadai.
Sadai, v'chol asher bo ya'aloz Sadai, ay 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 ya'aloz Sadai, v'chol asher bo ya'aloz Sadai, ay 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 ay, az yiranenu kol hatzeyar, az yiranenu kol hatzeyar. Az yiranenu kol hatzeyar, az yiranenu kol hatzeyar, ya'aloz Sadai, v'chol asher bo ya'aloz Sadai, ay 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 ay, ya'aloz Sadai, עצי יער, אז ירננו כל עצי יער, אז ירננו כל עצי יער, אז ירננו כל עצי יער, יעלו שדי בכל אשר בו, יעלו שדי, איי 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 איי, יעלו שדי בכל אשר בו, יעלו שדי, איי 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 איי.
That's a new one for me, and I just love that version of that. We're on page 138. You know, the Shabbat service is made up of lots of things. You can find elements from the Torah or from the Tanakh. For example, Micha Mocha is just straight from the Torah. You can find elements from the Talmud. And a lot of blessings are from the Talmud. But there's a third way that the Siddur was comprised, and that's with liturgical poetry. There's a special word for that called a piyut. And this is one of those examples, written in the 16th century or 15th, 16th century in Sfat. And our tradition is to do the first, second, fifth, and ninth verse of this song, or this expression, this prayer. And when we get to by the way, it's on page 138. And when we get to the ninth verse, I'm going to invite you to rise and face the entrance of the sanctuary. But for now, Lecha Dodi 138. Again, verse 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Yadadadadai lecha dodi, yadadadadai likrat kala, yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat tikaven, yadadadadai lecha dodi, yadadadadai likrat kala, yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad ishtianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad Shemo echad L'shemu tiferet v'nitilah Dai 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 Yadadadadai lecha dodi Yadadadadai likrat kala Yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat b'nei Shabbat nikabela Likrat Shabbat lechu b'nelecha Kihi v'kol aberata Erosh mikem ne'etzuta Sof ma'aseh Machshava tefillah Dai 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 Yadadadadai lecha dodi Yadadadadai likrat kala Yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat b'nei Shabbat nikabela Itoreri Kiva oleh Miori Uri Shir daveri ידדדאי לקראת כלה, ידדדאי פני שבת, פני שבת תקבלה.
Please rise and we face the entrance. Last verse.
בואי ושלום, עטרת קהלה, גם בשמחה צהולה, תוכן בני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, די די די, ידדדאי לך דודי, ידדדאי לקראת כלה, ידדדאי פני שבת, פני שבת תקבלה, ידדדאי לך דודי, ידדדאי לקראת כלה, ידדדאי פני שבת, פני שבת תקבלה.
Remain standing. We're on 146 as we continue with the Baruchu, which is our call to worship. No, it's cool.
Yai, 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 Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Yai, 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 yai.
149 at the top. Join me, please. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated. Next page, 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, and that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Next page, Mi Chamocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה מלכותך ראו בניך בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים זה לי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר יפתה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
So I'm aware that that for some people, you know, it's like you come to the synagogue, you come to services, and sometimes you're just like, you know, maybe you would go, maybe we won't go. You know, the traffic. But often, or generally, few people come and say, oh, I wish I had stayed home, right? Because it's once you've gotten to that place and you've gotten out of the house and you got dressed and you've made the commitment to come, generally you're happy you did. Probably because, not just because of just liking the music, although it's beautiful, and liking the Oneg Shabbat, although it's tasty. It's just because there is a measure of joy which is associated with our tradition, with being here on Shabbat, with connecting. And one of the things and I love joy. I love the word and the concept of joy. I love it because it's so different, because, you know, ask anybody and they would struggle to distinguish between joy and fun. But there's huge difference, and I can tell you the difference right now if you want me to tell you, which is fun is at the moment, and then once it's over, it's gone, but joy stays with you. And the thing about joy is that it you know, the fun, it makes you happy, but joy fills you, right? And our ancestors knew this, and they knew that Shabbat was a joy. They knew there was a delight in being part of Shabbat, and for them, by the way, I mean, you can imagine just how much more difficult it was for them to function following all the rules and laws of Shabbat. Now it's maybe a little bit easier, but back in the generation of when these prayers and when these words were being written, it was complicated, and yet, Yismachu v'malchutcha, you know, those who keep Shomerei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg, those who keep Shabbat. It's a joy. Like they call it a delight. And so Yismachu, page 162.
Yismechu v'malechuteha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechuteha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat. Mikadeshei Shevi Shabbat, Kulam Yismehu v'yitangru mituvecha Shabbat. Yismehu v'malechuteha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat. Yismehu v'malechuteha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat. V'hashatehi ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdat yamim oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechuteha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechuteha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat. Zecher l'maaseh b'reishit Shabbat. Zecher l'maaseh b'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechuteha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechuteha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei Oneg Shabbat.
That's always a fun one. The Tefillah, it starts on 164 with the singing of Adonai Sifatai Tiftach. And then it's going to go in succession to 166, 168, and 170. I will try to sneak in a page number when it happens. But if I don't, just know that we're on one of those even pages between 164 and 170. Tefillah, please rise.
Adonai, Ananana Sfatai Tiftach, Ananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha, Ananana Adonai, Ananana Sfatai Tiftach, Ananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha, Ananana Adonai, Ananana Sfatai Tiftach, Ananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha, Ananana Adonai, Ananana Sfatai Tiftach, Ananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu v'Imoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim,
וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. 168. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הצער. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו משני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה.
ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
170.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. All right, so we're on page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh hashabbat.
Amen.
So our evening prayer for peace is called Shalom Rav. It's the new one that we've been singing with the English associated with it. It's unfortunate. I mean, look, Shalom Rav is on page 178. So the Hebrew parts are on 178. Unfortunately, the English parts, I keep thinking I want to put it in the program and I just keep forgetting. So just the Hebrew parts are on 178. Still, we're on 178.
Make of us a house for all people, gather us in hope for all people, surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lekol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon לכל השלום, לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך, בשלומך. Make of us a house for all people, gather us in hope for all people, surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love. Make of us טסים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. טסים לעולם. טסים לעולם.
Feel free to put your prayer books away for the time being, because this is, and I know there are a handful of, as I said, unusual faces here. And when I say that, I'm, of course, smiling, because this is the part of our service in which we try our best to create a sense of community. And obviously, you can't just snap your fingers and make a community, but you can try. Did it work? No. But what I can say is that, but you can help it. There are ways to kind of help sense of community, and that's just by hearing a little bit about what's going on with each other and some of the things which are meaningful and important. Because what else is a relationship other than learning about others and caring about others? And so we begin with joy. And so if you have experienced joy recently and you would like to share that joy with us, we would love to hear about it. And just raise your hand if you have the courage to do so. And then from time to time, we're gonna just pause and sing Ken Yehi, which means may it be so. So Karen, you get to start. Wow, 102-year-old stepmother. What does she do well?
She is funny.
Okay,
Charming.
there you go.
Yes, she is a perfect hostess. Anyway, but it was a delightful visit with her, and it was gorgeous weather in California.
Yeah.
Lovely time.
They do that out there pretty well.
More importantly, my niece, my stepsister's daughter, was in a horrendous traffic accident in Jamaica about 2 weeks ago. It was touch and go as to whether she was going to live. It was touch and go as to whether she would ever be able to walk again. And as of today, she's starting to make really positive signs of progress, that she may, in fact, make a virtually full recovery, which is utterly remarkable. So much joy.
Wow. So the joy of seeing your 102-year-old stepmother, who is, other than a few mild and minor cosmetic issues, she's doing great.
She still walks twice a day
Wow.
outside, with
So not to the bathroom, we're just talking about. Right. The other time she just stays where she is and goes to the bathroom. What's her name? Marguerite, if you are watching, I am so sorry for making that joke. It was a terrible thing for me to say. And of course, the other joy, I mean, I know it's hardly a joy to talk about a pain, but if you're doing it within the context of almost a miraculous recovery, then it really is joy. There's no question. I'm so glad to hear it. Thanks for sharing. More joy? Yeah, Laura.
Yeah, I think I've had my last birthday month party. I know it's been going on for the entire month. We had a yearly get-together. We do this every year with my very good friends. And there are about 10 of us who have August birthdays, and we throw this big birthday bash. And it was a lot of fun. And the weather just cooperated, and everybody had a good time. And it ended up with singing and guitar playing and banjo playing and mandolin playing. It was
so
a
glad.
lot of fun.
Sounds it. So the joy of this birthday celebration with others who are also experiencing it and being with these close friends, for that and for what Karen shared, I think that's deserving of a Ken Yehi. So join me. Ken Yehi, Ken Yehi, Ken Yehi, Ken Yehi. Ken Yehi, go ahead.
The joy of a 4,000-mile car trip with my son named
New Orleans, huh?
New Orleans, where we passed by your dad's school.
How nice.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
You knew Elsa's shul it was.
Was that?
Becky's shul.
Is that right?
Yep. Becky and I were in the same confirmation class.
4,000 miles.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you had a good experience with him. I think after 4,000 miles, I would probably want to put my children in front of the car and then continue driving it, but I don't think so. I'm so glad you had a good experience with Ari. Tell me more, Joy. There's got to be more. Yes, Tom.
I have two things. One, it's a joy to be back after being away for 2.5 months when I first got here.
Ah.
And the other thing is that unprompted by me, my older daughter is attending Shabbat services tonight at Burning Man.
Is there such a thing? I don't know what to say about that. They have a Burning Man Shabbat service? And do they because I know Burning Man's all about trading and things and, so it's what do you trade to go to the service? Who knows? A massage, right?
They also have a very moving Nova remembrance that does not have anything but Burns context or any adulteration, but just the real heartfelt.
Wow. That's touching because I described the Nova Festival, that terrible massacre on October 7th, as a combination of Burning Man and Grateful Dead concert. That's how I described what that must have been like. And so I'm glad that at Burning Man they kind of acknowledge that and they make the connection.
The Nova Festival was a Burning Man event.
Was it?
Internationally.
I didn't know that. I know it's similar, but I didn't know it was but that's great. Thanks for telling me that. So for the joy of spending 4,000 miles and a nice trip to New Orleans, along with the joy of being back after 2.5 months or so, not to mention the daughter going to, we're going to call it services. For these, join me again. Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? More joy. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
My 90-year-old dad had hip surgery today.
That's worth, that's...
He had two doctors. One said that he'd do it, but he didn't think it was a good idea. And then a young upstart doctor said he could do it. He did it, and he made it through. And then, speaking of what you said earlier when you started the service, I was ready to stay home and watch the U.S. Open tennis tonight. And unprompted, as you shared, this young man insisted on coming to services, so he won out.
Bravo.
And I don't regret it.
Yes. Nice job. I'm glad to hear it. Thanks for telling me. More joy. Yeah.
So we were invited on to our friends. They live on their sailboat. They've been living on it for 15 years.
Oh my God.
In the Annapolis area, and they were close friends with them, and they called us and asked us if we wanted to go out for a sail. And we sold our sailboat about a year and a half ago.
And vowed never to go on a sailboat ever again.
We miss our boat a lot. So we were delighted to go for a sail. We sailed for 14 miles back and forth across the bay, and it was a beautiful day, good, lovely wind, and it was a great joy.
Wow, that good, huh? I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear it. The joy of a nice, relaxing sail out into the bay and the joy of, what's that? On someone else's boat, no less. And the double joy. And then the joy of being here at the synagogue because your kid had the urge to come. That is a huge joy. For both of those, join me. Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Anybody else want to share? Yeah. Unusual faith.
Unusual faith.
That's right.
My husband and I are coaching our youngest daughter's under 5 soccer team. And we held our first practice part of a new community and getting the chance to see the joy on the kids' faces and be their, first coaches for their first soccer team is pretty exciting.
Under five, huh?
Under 5.
How thick's the playbook?
There's 9. My husband takes it very seriously. I am the assistant. But it's mostly herding cats. Lots of crying, lots of snacks and water breaks. But it's a lot of fun.
It's so funny. It's really the only sport, though, a 4-year-old can play. I mean, like, oh, I'm so glad. What a great experience. Anybody else want to share joy? Yeah.
I want to share the joy of a week ago.
Okay.
Here at the Shabarbecue.
Yeah. Our Shabarbecue last week. That was fun. Yeah.
And we have quite a talented group, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
You sang, Gabe sang, Laura, is it Jenny back there? I can't tell, no, it's not.
Yeah.
But in any case, the performance on the birthday.
Yeah, it was really good. Really impressive. Lou Berman made his debut. He mentioned it on it, yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was a nice evening. There's no question about it. No question about it. Thanks for sharing that. Any last joy? Howard, go ahead. Finish. Bring us to a close.
So Chris and I's joy this week is this was our last first week of school teaching ever.
Wait, really? No, I knew that are just retiring?
July 1st, 2025.
And then what, buying their sailboat and then going around?
So we also are going to start an ice cream business, and it's officially called Schools Out Ice Cream.
I'll come. Where is it going to be located?
No, we're building a trailer, we're going to ship it around.
Fun. Fun. That's so great. I'm blown away. Like, I'm going to ask what I think is probably an obvious question, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. So, obviously, you're really looking forward to this being your last year of teaching. Is that correct? Yeah, it seems as if I think that you might feel the joy of it being your last year. Something tells me that the school does not necessarily share in the same joy. But
They already asked me if I come back and stop.
no.
Come back and serve ice cream.
That's right. I love it. I love it. I'm so glad to hear. More joy. Yeah, go ahead.
Last Saturday, Stonington, where I used to live before I moved to my condo, had a kids fishing tournament dedicated, and I'll explain the thing, to my late husband
Right.
and his other fishing buddy in the neighborhood. And it was incredible. There were about 30 kids who were just so excited. There were prizes for everything. But the beautiful thing was, I mean, it was called the Steve Breakfast Jim Global Memorial. They had done fishing tournaments every year for years, and then it fell apart after COVID.
Right.
This is the first year they brought it back, and the fellows who hosted it spoke about the two guys, and my God, talk about a legacy. They were fishermen who loved it so much, but they mentored kids continually. They'd hang on and talk, and and people still talk about their kids who were in their 30s or later and remember. And so it was just fabulous. And they weren't for the kids were adorable. Small fish screaming up and
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that great story. Join me. Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Anybody else have any? Great way to bring it to a close. Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim. We praise you, Adonai our God, for partnering with us in the various joys that are in our lives. Amen. Now, along with the joy, of course, is a recognition of struggle. Loved ones of ours or we ourselves are struggling either physically or emotionally. And in both cases, we cry out for help, cry out for healing. And this is an opportunity to kind of join together in that shared cry. Now, I want to be very clear about something. I say it regularly, but I'm going to say it again just to be on the safe side, that I do not believe that these words alone are just magic that bring healing, right? As if to say, if I just say it 5 times, then you'll have 5 times the chance of a more complete healing. Or if I just constantly say it, then everyone's going to be, it just doesn't work that way. I think we all know that healing comes mostly from science and doctors. But what I can say is that when we feel connected and as part of a community, when we feel like we know that others are caring about us and are helping us and lifting us up at difficult times, then those do contribute to healing. Those feelings do contribute to healing. And so when we join our voices together in a prayer of healing, again, maybe those words aren't doing it, but those words combined with the voices of other people together, it's helping. It really is, it's helping. And there are studies which go into depth and detail about how that really is, in fact, the case. And so I'm going to share with you the beginning of a blessing, and then halfway through this blessing, I'm going to give you a chance to say a name that you wish, or multiple names that you wish, of people who are in need of healing. Again, either physical, emotional, spiritual healing. And you can say your own name if that is your desire. You can say someone else's name. You can say it in Hebrew. You can say it in English, or you can just think it. And then we'll finish the blessing and then sing. So let me begin the blessing. It starts like this. Mishaberach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, v'Imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. Those words mean, may the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel, v'Yivarech v'Yirapet kol hacholim shelanu. May God bless and heal all of our loved ones who are in need of healing, especially the ones whom we name at this time. And so, if you wish to share a name, I'll just kind of just look around, and if you want to share a name, please feel free to do so. Thank you. Yeah, totally. Thank you. Thanks. Huh, thanks. Thank you. Yes.
Rita Kelly, Lubiani.
Yeah. Allow me just to add a handful of other names. Allison Herman, and Cindy Fox. Vishlach lehem bimheira refuah shalema. May God send them speedily a complete recovery. Refuat hanefesh v'refuat haguf. A healing of body and a healing of spirit. Betoch sha'ar cholei Yisrael, amongst all who are in need of healing. V'nomar amen, and let us say amen. So we're on page 371 if you'd like to follow along with the words of Mi Sheberach.
Mi Sheberach Avotenu Mikor HaBeracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi Sheberach Imotenu Mikor HaBeracha Le'avotenu. Bless bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We pause for a moment of silence.
Ose shalom bimroma,
Ya'aseh shalom
aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ose shalom bimromav, Ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
So, I'm going to share with you a brief, very brief story about my first year in rabbinical school in Jerusalem. I was living in an apartment on Rehov Achad Ha'am Street in Jerusalem. If you know Jerusalem, and you can picture where the Don Panorama Hotel is, it's on the cross street, just another couple hundred, quarter of a mile in the other direction. In any event, so I'm in my apartment, or I'm walking out of my apartment, and I see a person from another apartment. And remember, Reform Judaism is not really one of the most. It's not so common. At least it wasn't then. Still isn't. But back in 1992, no one knew anything about Reform Judaism in Israel. And this man who was a doctor, smart, from America, so he did know about Reform Judaism, but not so much. And he was pushing me a little bit about trying to understand what I believed and what I didn't believe in. And, he kept pushing me about whether, because I said, well, not all of the commandments do we follow, we don't do everything. Remember, I was fresh, first days in rabbinical school, so as Becky could tell you, we didn't get such a robust education in New Orleans at my dad's synagogue, so in any event, they may be watching. If so, I apologize for that one. There's a second apology. Point is that, and he asked me about, do I believe that, God wrote the Torah? And at the time, I kind of wasn't so skilled in my understanding of theology or of Torah or of academia, and I said, I guess. And he says to me, the man says, well, then why don't you do all the mitzvot? I mean, after all, that God commanded us. And I was like, well, how dare you? Right? I was like, well, because, anyway, so, I remember it was literally in my first week of school, and I had kind of encountered my first crisis, my first religious crisis, because I hadn't yet realized that it was okay for me to say that God didn't write the Torah. Hadn't gotten to that chapter in our textbooks yet. And, but I also knew that I don't observe every single one of the mitzvot and every single one of the commandments. So how do I make sense of that? And it was complicated, and it remains one of these very, true issues for Jews, especially liberal Jews. Right? Because, we are confronted with the question, are we obligated by the words of the Torah and by our oral tradition? Maybe yes, maybe no. Or perhaps God's words in the Torah were unclear. And therefore, because of the fact that it's not clear, maybe that gives us right to decide what we do and what we don't do. Well, I'm not so sure that we agree with that, but perhaps we do. Or the final thought, which is that it's not God's words. In either case, that's the kind of issue that we find ourselves not just confronting and thinking about, but confronted by when we think about our observance. Judaism has specific content. There is a way to be Jewish. And we may, and as liberal and reform Jews, when I say liberal, by the way, I mean reform. I don't mean liberal politically, of course. But as liberal Jews, we're aware that Judaism has specific content. We're aware of it. And we make decisions about the things that we do, things we don't do, based upon what enriches us and gives meaning to our lives. And some might, like my friend in Jerusalem in my first week of rabbinical, some might say, fine, you're welcome to say what you do and don't do, but I'm just not exactly sure why you, a person who believes that God wrote the Torah, would chance it. Why would you risk not doing mitzvot when you have just declared that God told you this stuff? It's not worth the risk. So, but again, I wasn't sophisticated enough to answer him at the moment and at the time, but it does have specific content. Now, there have been, by the way, reform, liberal theologians and philosophers. I studied with one of them who was perhaps most famous. His name was Alvin Reines. And don't worry, you don't have to remember any of this. But Alvin Reines was clear in his contention that Judaism doesn't have specific content. He believed, and would make a very compelling argument. In fact, so much of a compelling argument that he was, as I like to say, exiled to Cincinnati. And he wasn't the theologian philosopher in New York, which was obviously where the heart of Reform Judaism, even though Cincinnati was the first campus. New York, I think we know, that's where everything is. And he wasn't in New York because his thoughts were so out there. But what he said was, look, if the moment we decide that God didn't write the Torah, then nothing in there is on us. In fact, we can just do what we want. And he declared that Shabbat should now be on Tuesdays. And trust me, when he made that declaration to the class, we were just like, wait a minute, you can't say that. That's obvious Shabbat's not Tuesday. And he was like, says who? We were like, well, again, I'm back to that stammer that I did with my, because we all know it's axiomatic. Of course, we start from Shabbat on Shabbat on Friday night and Saturday. But he was right. And my point is that we know that Judaism has specific content. And yet, at the same time, as liberal Jews, that content isn't so embedded in stone and etched that way. There's room. And this week's Torah portion kind of sheds some very interesting light on it. In this week's Torah portion, Re'eh, it starts out with Re'eh. Look, Re'eh means look, see. I have placed before you, in the plural, before you, blessing and curse. And God is saying, look, there's a right way and a wrong way. There's a blessing and there's a curse. But I've placed it before you to choose. Choose which way you're going to go. You know that there is, in fact, a way and a content that's part of Judaism. But that doesn't mean you are forced into it. Akiva famously said, everything is known by God, but we have free will. In other words, we have the capacity to make choices. We have the capacity to make decisions about what is important to us and what elevates our lives spiritually and what's not. And others may choose to make other decisions. Right? People say to me, when I say about, people talk about Reform Judaism, and they say, well, what it means to be Reform is you don't keep kosher. And I say, well, why? What's that? Reform isn't about what you do or don't. Reform is only about what you do. It's about making choices. You make choices. And so the moment you say, oh, that's what Reform is, they don't do X, Y, and Z, then that's the moment in which then we've misrepresented who we are. Reform isn't about what we don't do, it's about what we do. Reform is about making choices, which is specifically spoken by God in this week's Torah portion, when God says, look, there's a blessing and a curse, and I'm putting it before you. I hope you choose the way I want you to choose, but that doesn't mean you have to. There are other ways. No one's forced, but if you choose the ways of Judaism, if you choose the way of Jewish content, then at minimum, it's going to enrich you. If you choose not to, you're not going to be enriched by it, but you might not have been enriched by necessarily everything in the first place. But without trying, you'll never know. I'm placing it before you, God says. Choose what you want. Choose what's going to work for you. I hope you choose life. I hope you choose blessing. But I get it. Not everybody does. Doesn't mean you're not Jewish. And so this Torah portion is really like this. It's kind of what I think to be a remarkable supportive statement of liberal Reform Judaism. But with the caveat that you can't just, out of hand, rule something out. You have to consider it. Reform Judaism is a denomination of Judaism about what we do, not about what we don't do. We start from the assumption that you don't have to. Now, pick what you do. And I hope that we all find ourselves day to day being in a relationship with our tradition. So maybe, just maybe, there are new elements of our tradition that we choose to do as opposed to not do. That's it. Shabbat Shalom and thank you. And I invite you to turn, please, to page 586. And when you get to 586, I'd like to ask you to please rise as we continue now with Aleinu.
Aleinu.
לשבח לדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Please be seated. So this is a moment in our service of sacred memory. Loved ones from our community are no longer with us, and we have a blessing or expression that we offer to give us comfort, to help us through our difficult times and our pain. It's called the Kaddish, and that prayer, by the way, is on page 598. But before we continue with the recitation of the Kaddish, I'd like to share with you some names of loved ones from our community and our congregation who have passed away. First, a handful of names of people who have passed away quite recently, and then further some names of those loved ones whose yahrzeits occur on this Shabbat. It means it's the anniversary of their passing. And so first I mention Lois Levine, mother of Randy Altshuler, Mika Rom, sister of Ofer Ganel, Levon Doucette, the wife of Melanie Doucette, and also like to mention Robert Schwartz, the father of Becky. And so, additionally, I would also like to share these loved ones whose yahrzeits occur on this Shabbat. Benjamin Harmon Weiss, Alvin Wolf, Adolf Kugelmass, Elton Resnick, Hazel Sakobin, Richard Fine, Belle Kaplan Palmisano, Sidney Packer, Beatrice Ringel, David Weissman, Virginia Curry, Elena Sherry, Don Singer, and Edward Waldstein. And so in gratitude for their lives and linking their names with the rest of our loved ones who have passed away, we remember them now again with the words of this prayer called the Kaddish. Again, if you didn't hear it the first time, it's on page 598. And if it's your custom, I invite you to rise. Page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayei dechal beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei amaya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha, brichu. Le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'miram b'yalma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yakol Yisrael, V'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to every bereaved heart. And let us say, amen. Please be seated. Thank you. All right, our service is almost over, and thank you for being here with us. And I know we went over a little bit, but let me just share with you a handful of announcements briefly. The last class for the history of Israel is on Wednesday. So I know it's been Wednesdays and Sundays, but since this Sunday is Labor Day weekend, we decided to skip this one, and the last class is on Wednesday, September 4th, 5 p.m. Bloodmobile. On first day of religious school, which is next Sunday, the Bloodmobile will be here, and it's really an important mitzvah to donate blood. So everything I'm talking about, by the way, is in the weekly email, and you can see and read about it more thoroughly, but we really need people to sign up for the blood, to donate blood. It's important. The Sisterhood's taking a trip to the Marietta House Museum on Thursday the 12th. Saturday, September 14th, if you know of any tots, kids who are, it's targeted to age 4. If you know of any people who are 4 years old or a little older or a little younger, we're doing our first Tot Shabbat on a Saturday morning here. That is Saturday, September 14th at 9:30 a.m. We have a special program, adult education program that was just added quite recently, only because I know this person's going to be in town, but we have a member of the congregation whose sister lives in the West Bank in Israel. So it's a fascinating person with a fascinating story. I mean, she was a conservative Jew from Delaware, and now she's in Susia, not too far from Hebron in the desert. So that is September 20th at 10 a.m. Again, everything I'm mentioning is on our website and in the weekly email. Membership renewal has begun. Check your Shul Cloud account for more information, and we need support for the Oneg Shabbat always. All right. Thank you so much to Jill Simon for serving as an usher. Thank you so much to Cindy and Brian Landis for sponsoring the Oneg Shabbat. We are going to conclude with Motzi and then Adonai Oz. And Adonai Oz is on page 642. But first, Motzi. Ooh, looks like a good one.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, Shabbat Shalom.
All right, Adonai Oz is how we conclude our service. Page 642.
Adonai Oz le'amo yitim, Adonai yivarech et amo. Adonai Oz le'amo yitim, Adonai yivarech et amo. Adonai yivarech et amo. Adonai Oz le'amo yitin, Adonai yivarech et amo.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and join us for an Oneg Shabbat out in the lobby. Shabbat Shalom. And now for those of you who are on the stream, one last song of let's see, how about, all right, let's do this one. Yalla, la, la. La la